The objective of this presentation is to explain some of the concepts in circular economy. And firstly, I am going to focus on the definition of circular economy and the main characteristics. So after talk about the main characteristics of circular economy, I'm going to explain the link between circular economy and sustainability. And finally, I'm going to focus on the role of Europe in the promotion of circular economy. So, well, let me start with the concept of linear economy. A linear economy traditionally follows the take, make, and dispose step-by-step plan. So this means that the raw material are collected, then transformed into products that are used until they are finally discarded and wasted. So the value is created by producing and selling as many products as possible. But what's the problem with this linear economy? So, well, the big issue is the waste. So this type of economy is not viable because in the long term, the resources on the planet will be insufficient. In contrast, circular economy describes an economic system that is based on business models, which replace the end-of-life concept with reducing, with the aim to accomplish sustainable development, which implies creating environmental quality, economic prosperity, and social equity to the benefit of current and future generations. So the core idea of circular economy are, first, the elimination of waste by design. Second, respect social, economic, and natural environments. And third, resource-conscious business. So, therefore, in a circular economy, the value of products and materials is maintained for as long as possible. And waste production and resource use are reducing to a minimum. And when products reach the end of their life, resources are kept in the economy to be reused and generate value again. So, therefore, there is a common approach to circular economy that is focused first in using raw materials and second in system change. So in the first approach, circular economy is an economy where reducing, reusing, and recycling are central. So when we talk about reduce, we talk about using less virgin material. When we talk about reuse, we talk about reused products and its parts. And when we talk about recycle, we talk about the process, high quality material. On the other hand, in the second approach, circular economy emphasizes three key elements. So the first one is the closed cycles. So there is not waste because every residual stream can be used to make a new product. The second one is renewable energy. Energy also lasts as long as possible in a circular economy. So the circular economic system is based on renewable energy sources. And third, we talk about system thinking. So it refers to the relationships between actors in the economy. So to achieve a circular economy, all these parts must cooperate to find solutions. So therefore, circular economy is aligned with the 4 sustainability principles. That is, first, the consideration of the 3 dimensions of sustainability: environmental, social, and economic. In fact, a circular economy may be placed in the intersection between environmental, economic, and social dimensions of sustainability. And the second principle is the intergenerational perspective that implies identifying, evaluating, and managing the future and the current needs, which is basic in circular economy. The third principle is the stakeholder approach. This principle implies identifying the current stakeholders' needs and expectations, which is linked with the system thinking concept in circular economy. And finally, the life cycle thinking that implies managing the impacts upstream and downstream activities. So the integration of these principles into organizations in a circular economy context contributes to achieve sustainable development goals. So the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, adopted by all United Nations members states in 2015, provides 17 Sustainable Development Goals. These goals define global development priorities for 2013 and seek to mobilize global efforts around a common set of goals and targets. The circular economy is an integral part of the sustainability agenda and can contribute to several different sustainable development goals. It is obvious that the 12th goal, responsible consumption and production, is the heart of the circular economy. But other goals present a stronger relationship with circular economy, like, for example, Goal 6, clean water and sanitation; Goal 7, affordable and clean energy; 8, decent work and economic growth; and 15, life of land. So, exploring more in depth some of these relationships, we can highlight, for example, that, of course, sustainable production and consumption is the core idea behind the circular economy. So creating circular material flows, minimizing the use of natural resources, and the elimination of toxic chemicals to reduce our ecological footprint, which form the basis of a circular economy, will lead to the 12th goal. And for example, a complete transition to cleaner energy needs, for example, different sources such as solar, wind, and thermal power. So this is vital when we talk about the 7th goal. And moreover, for example, if we focus on 11 goals, adopting a circular economy, designing cities, promote circularity, and change the way to live. So it's basic. So in this context, the European Commission in 2015 adopted an ambitious circular economy package, which includes legislative proposals on waste to stimulate European transitions towards a circular economy, which will boost global competitiveness, foster sustainable economy, and generate new jobs. So concretely, the circular economic package consists of, first, an European action plan for the circular economy that establishes a concrete and ambitious program of action with measures covering the whole cycle from production and consumption to waste management and the market for secondary raw materials. Then these circular economic packages include an annex to the action plan with a list of over 50 measures that the Commission intends to adopt in the coming years. And finally, this circular economic package includes 4 legislative proposals of waste. That is the Waste Framework Directive, the Packaging Waste Directive, the Landfill Directive, and the new harmonized methodology to count recycling rates for municipal waste. So considering that waste management plays a central role in the circular economy, I'm going to focus on Waste Framework Directive. So the average European citizen generates around 5 tons of waste, of which only a limited share, more or less 2.7 billion of tons, is recycling. So much ends up in landfills or incinerations. So the Europe waste policy provides a framework to improve waste management, stimulate innovation in separate waste collection and recycling, and limit the use of landfilling, and create incentive to change consumer behavior. So it is also aims to reduce the actual quantity of waste generated and the amount of harmful substances it contains. So to that end, the Waste Framework Directive defines a hierarchy to be applied in Europe in waste management. So it is a tool that lists methods of waste management in order of their impact on the environment in a simple diagram. So waste prevention and reuse are the most preferred options, followed by recycling and then energy recovery, while waste disposal through landfills should be the very last resort. So the Euro waste legislation also sets specific targets to increase the recycling of specific waste streams, such as, for example, electronic equipment, cars, batteries, construction, packaging waste, etc. So, well, in conclusion, circular economy presents several economic, environmental, and social benefits, but really, what are the clear benefits of our circular economy? So let me highlight some of them. So the creation of a new green industries and jobs, a reduced dependence of importations and raw materials, avoidance of environmental damage caused by resources extraction, and less pollution, enhancing the Earth life support systems. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks, Elena. Thanks for this introductory small lesson about circular economy and how the European Commission is trying to promote sustainability and circular economy specifically through their new directives that we have to work on in our project, of course, to give this to the end users, the knowledge about the existence of those specific regulations and acts in the European Union that should be transposed to the rest of regulations or legislations in the different countries. Now we can move quickly, because we are out of time at this moment, to Juana Maria Rivera. She's going to present us some results about environmental impacts and social impacts in the textile sector. Yeah, specifically, so we are moving fast to the textile sector. And Juana, the floor is yours.
As Maria Jesus said, I'm going to present a brief introduction to the management of environmental and social impacts of the textile sector and their relevance in a circular economy context. This short presentation is structured in 3 parts. A brief introduction for framing the social and environmental impact management in a circular economy context, a preliminary identification of best practices in textile companies regarding circular economy, and a summarized exposition about current situation on environmental and social impacts assessment in textile sector. As we have seen before, as Elena's presentation explained, the transition to a circular economy, we have seen before the transition to a circular economy implies a systemic change in the dominant economic paradigm. There is possible to identify 3 levels of circular economy implementation. Micro or individual firm level, focus on companies. Meso level, focus on an eco-industrial network. And macro level, focus on an eco-city, eco-municipality, or eco-province. This part of the course focuses on micro level. Nevertheless, they don't conform isolated silos. They are interrelated, especially by means of their belonging to a same supply chain. Consequently, the social and environmental impacts derived from this supply chain and their management affect the company, but also the industrial network and, of course, territory sustainability. At micro level, the transition process to a circular economy requires the operationalization and integration of circular economy in the management of organizations. Based on the reference frame of circular business model conceptions defined by Hoffman, we consider that the effective implementation of circular economy strategies requires companies to be consistent with circular economy paradigm at 3 levels. The normative dimension. Why should it be done? It can be associated to the mission, vision, principles, values of the company. The strategic dimension, what should be done? The definition of corporate strategy according to a circular economy approach, the integration of circular economy practices. And an operative dimension, how should it be done? Regarding the implementation of the strategies previously defined, and including the assessment of the social and environmental impacts. This course presents a brief reflection about the performance of the textile sector companies in this regard. And following the European Union proposal for delimiting textile and clothing industry, it can be seen that it covers a range of activities from the transformation of natural or synthetic fibers into yarns and fabrics, to the production of a wide variety of products such as clothes, home textiles, or industrial textile. And in addition, in a circular economy context, it is important to identify a generic structure of the main life cycle phases of textile products and their related supply chain, including consumer use and end-of-life phases, as this research group considered in a research carried out for the 2020 SMART project. As part of this research, we analyzed public information regarding good practices on social and environmental impacts assessment implemented by the most advanced companies in terms of sustainability management. Companies that belong to every life cycle phase of a textile product previously defined. The analysis was structured considering the environmental and social impact categories defined by the organizational environmental footprint from the European Commission and the social footprint for the UNEP-CETAL social life cycle assessment methodologies, respectively. The question that guided this study was, in general terms, what are companies of the textile industry doing for managing the social and environmental impacts? Are they managing these impacts? As an overall result, we will see as the management of corporate social and environmental impacts in the textile sector, even for the most advanced companies, has still room for improvement. Colors in the figures represent the presence or absence of the analyzed issue. Green color if all the companies in the sample have at least one evidence of the item analyzed. Red, the opposite. None of the companies present evidences of fulfillment, and yellow one, other situations. Results obtained regarding good practices in corporate commitments, strategies, and policies defined show textile companies from all the life cycle phases allocating resources and efforts to fight against climate change. Being the best practices most frequently found, the use of renewable and alternative energy resources, energy efficiency projects, or adoption of product carbon footprint certification, among others. Other notable practices identified regard natural resource efficiency, the use of reusable products, waste management guidelines and products produced in a near closed loop process, where waste is recycled, reused, or offered for resale. And in addition, there are also practices about techniques to improve water use efficiency and development of water recycling systems. Concerning the social dimension, red color is again the most frequent. However, a large number of best practices are linked to workers, employees, stakeholders, which are fundamentally based on health and safety, based on the adoption of workplace health and safety management systems, preventive care programs, or measures to enforce a strong safety culture, and social benefit topics, such as life insurance, healthcare, or training and development programs. Regarding society stakeholder, we can highlight best practices associated to the contribution to economic development initiatives, such as programs to cooperate with nonprofit organizations or support foundations. Another categories covered by companies from different life cycle phases are community engagement by means of scholarship programs and engagement with graduate practices, promoting social responsibility, referring to value chain actors, which includes matters of long-term supply agreements or supplier code of conduct and guidelines, and end-of-life responsibility, practices related to the consumer stakeholder, such as picking programs or closing the loop programs. Concerning the environmental and social impact assessment, the analyzed companies in textile sector mainly define indicators related to climate change, resource depletion, mineral fossils, and resource depletion water. The most used indicator is total CO2 emission in tons, which is directly associated with climate change. With respect to resource depletion categories, related indicators typically used are water consumption and total weight of waste. With reference to social footprint, companies mainly provide indicators associated with the workers, employees, stakeholder category again. In this category, the most common indicators are ratio of male to female employees, workplace accident indicators, rate of injury, and average hours of training per year per employees. In any case, it evidences a lack of information associated with the environmental and social dimensions, except for aspects linked to climate change, equal opportunities, health and safety, and social benefits of employees. Summarizing, as we said before, we have seen as the management of corporate social and environmental impacts in the textile sector has still room for improvement. You can see a deep analysis of these results in the public report, public deliverable of the SMART project, list of best practices and KPIs of the textile products life cycle, that you can find in this list of references jointly with other references used during this presentation. So thank you very much for your attention.
Idoia Ferreiro is going to recontextualize this sector within the life cycle assessment. Now, Juana has presented how the companies are behaving, and Idoia is going to present where are the real impacts of this sector, because for us it's quite important to work towards a circular economy. So we need to know perfectly where are the impacts, where are the most important ones, and how we can work in producing different strategies to minimize those impacts and to promote a new way of doing economy, in this case, for the textile sector. So, Idoia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Maria Jesus. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, of
the
course.
Presentation? Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you very much. In this part of the course, I'm going to present the life cycle analysis, but from a practical perspective. We continue with this textile sector. We need a product, and the product that we have chosen is the T-shirt. We have chosen the T-shirt to apply the life cycle assessment. So first of all, let me say that part of the results that I'm going to comment in this presentation are based on the work that SoGRES Financial Markets, a research group, developed in the Horizon 2020 SMART project. So this is the outline of the presentation. And first, we start with the concept of life cycle. As you know, the life cycle analysis is necessary to determine the complete road, the complete itinerary of a product and its components. Therefore, the life cycle analysis allows us to answer questions like what is the origin of the product, where it was made, under which criteria has it been manufactured, what impacts does it have, so on. In this point, it's important to remark that we can find two approaches connected with the life cycle. On the one hand, the approach from cradle to grave, which is connected with linear economy, and on the other hand, we can find the approach from cradle to cradle, which is connected with circular economy. But this is theory. In practice, nothing is black or white. We have a continuous line that connects both approaches. So now the objective is to assess the potential environmental and social impacts of a product along its life cycle. For that, we have chosen this product, a cotton-made T-shirt, which is one of the best-selling items in the clothing Europe. And for the assessment, we use this database, CIMA Pro Tool, with environmental data from EcoInvent and with social data by SHDB. We define 3 scenarios. These 3 scenarios replicate the actual situation of the textile sector regarding the T-shirt. And these 3 scenarios are connected with linear economy in the case of the first and the third, and we introduce a practice more aligned with the circular economy, that is the reuse, and this is the second scenario. In this slide, now I try to characterize each of the scenarios. Now I'm going to focus on the first scenario. In this case, we can see all the phases of the life cycle in this case, where the cotton production is in USA, China, and India and Pakistan mainly. The fabric production is located in China, the garment manufacturing in Turkey, and after the use, in this case, is in Germany. Here we estimate that the T-shirt has 50 washing and dryings. And finally, we throw away this T-shirt in a landfill in Germany. Obviously, we also consider the transport phase. And in the second scenario, here the changes are introduced in this part of the life cycle. The use now is 40 washing and dryings. Then we introduce the reuse phase. Now the reuse is in a low-income country, is in Ivory Coast. Here we estimate 25 hand washing, and the T-shirt is incinerated. It's incinerated in a municipal solid waste in Ivory Coast. And finally, the third scenario, here we replicate the first scenario, but now all the phases are located in USA, in a country from high-income country that is classified in this group of countries. So now here we present the results. In this slide, I present the results based on the second scenario, since it is most complete scenario, including the practice of circular economy, that is the reuse, that nowadays the textile sector is implementing. The numbers, the meaning of these numbers is the accumulative impact contribution in its life cycle phase by impact category. Therefore, we observe that the substantial contributions are in the first and the second life cycle phases, in the environmental impacts and also in the social impacts, mainly in the first and the second phases. In this case, we are talking about the cotton production in the case of the first phase, and the carding and spinning, dyeing, washing, and rising in the case of the second phase. Combining this result with the study that has presented Juana, where we observe which aspects are reported by the companies of the sector, we observe that, broadly speaking, we observe a clear gap of public, environmental, and social information in those phases where the impacts are more substantial. So we need to improve in the assessment and reporting about environmental and social impacts. For this, we need science-based tools. In this case, we use the European environmental footprint for the environmental impacts and the social life cycle assessment from the UNEP CETAC for the social impacts. And in this slide is just an example of the application of these tools to assess the environmental and the social impacts. In this case, we observe the impacts by scenario. Each color means it's connected with a specific scenario. And this is important to aware decision makers that we need these tools to know the real picture about the impact along the whole life cycle. And for example, in this slide, you can see which categories show a higher impact, a most relevant impact. For example, in the case of the T-shirt, substantial impact are from the water resource depletion category. We can also see differences between scenarios. In this case, we can see a large difference between first and second scenario versus the third scenario. In this case, this difference is mainly due to the different agricultural techniques employed in cotton farming between the low-income countries and the USA country. And also we can see that, for example, in the social dimension, in the case of the USA scenario, the impacts are always better in this case. Although, obviously, there is still room for improvement, for example, in the collective burning and the toxic and hazardous categories. So just to conclude, as a final remarks, let me say that in a business context, there is a risk of bias in the environmental and social efforts to address those issues that have received more media interest at the expenses of other important impacts, considering all the product life cycle. Also, it's important to apply science-based tools to know the real impacts and consequently to make informed decisions in the management of environmental and social risks. And the circular economy practices are not sustainable by definition. It's important to measure the different options and choose the more sustainable one and provide improvements to contribute to the sustainable development.
Thanks, Idoia, for this quick move along the results of research we have done during these last 4 years. So we are happy to share with you the latest results that we are still publishing at this moment. And now it's the floor is for Silvia, that will connect circular economy with business models to go more in depth in the objective of our project, that is to promote sustainable business models and circular business models. So Silvia, the floor is yours.
What I will do right now is go through the different circular business models that have been presented in literature, and give you a rough overview of how businesses are putting circular principles into effect in the business context. This OECD report by 2018 gives us 5 5 directions for circular business models to go, or how they can be designed. So we have circular supply, resource recovery, product life extension, sharing platforms, and products as services. And I will briefly go through each of those and provide one example. When we look at the circular supply, something that's also highly promoted by the Cradle to Cradle initiative, going away from our linear to circular system, the circular supply business models highly focus on the materials that are used in products. So trying to go away from virgin resources and virgin materials to either bio-based materials or renewable ones, or recycled materials that we can harvest from the cycle. So one example here is, for example, Globe Chain, which is a B2B marketplace for reuse across industries. So, for example, members sign up to their platform, there's a membership fee, and then, for example, hotels can offer their furniture they don't need anymore to other clients. So, for example, schools, NGOs, and they can then reuse what's no longer used by the hotels and prolong the life cycle of these materials, not bringing more virgin materials into the cycle. Another very local example from Cologne is, for example, the fashion brand Armed Angels, which is currently introducing their Circ tea. So they developed a technology that allows them to collect old organic cotton shirts from their customers and recycle them into new t-shirts for clients. And here the very special thing about this recycling process, for example, is that they managed to produce t-shirts out of t-shirts, because in many cases what we see with recycled fabric or recycled materials is that the t-shirts then go on to become lower quality fabrics, like rugs for painters, for example. But what we actually aim for and what they are making possible is to take a t-shirt and make it into a new t-shirt and not something of lower quality fabric. So they are also an example for the circular supply model. Then when we look at resource recovery, we look at business models that recycle waste into then secondary raw materials. So you capture the embedded value at the end of life of a product to feed it into another. So 2 examples we can show here is, for example, the Urban Mining company. They are the first US commercial recycler of very rare magnets that are often found in disk drives or speakers or headphones, and they very often end up in landfills and are thrown away. So here the company developed this new process that actually enables them to recover them. And then another very well-known example is the Kalundborg industrial park in Denmark. So here you have a large area of industrial firms who all interchange their waste products with each other, depending on who needs what and who is producing what. So they are all in an industrial symbiosis with each other. The heat that one company doesn't need anymore is used by another one. Then if we look at the product life extension, this is a business model that is in contrast or opposite to what we now often have in our consumer culture, known as planned obsolescence. So here companies actually aim to prolong the life of products and to keep them in use for as long as possible. So if you look at Retech, for example, they collect redundant IT equipment from medium to large organizations in Europe and the UK. And what they do is then remake 80% roughly about of their collected goods into new products, and then from the rest that they can't remake in a way that it can be used again, they harvest spare parts, addressing the other 20%. So actually they can manage to take about 99% of what they collect out of landfills and re-give it to the cycle and to prolong the life of those IT products. Then another very common or well-known business model approach in the circular RAM is sharing. So here the focus is to add value through more intensive use of a product. So either by people co-owning something or by creating co-access. So for example, car sharing business models are very typical example of this, or the company we picked here, SoGRES, is a subscription model for baby clothing. So people pay a monthly fee to have access to a range of baby clothes, and then at the end of, like, when the baby outgrows it, it's returned to the company. The company takes care of cleaning it and redistributing it. So products that are only used usually for a very short amount of time, because kids grow very fast, are then used more intensively through this model of co-access in sharing. And then the last type is the product service system. So here this describes an offering where product and service are combined as a single offering, providing more the utility or the function of the product to customers in comparison to the actual product. However, here there are various subtypes that can be distinguished. So if you look at a product-oriented product service system, the product is still in the focus, and the service is, for example, a maintenance service. So it can help you to prolong the life of your product, but you still own the product. In the user-oriented product service system, the use is in focus, but it's still about the actual product. And then what actually has the highest impact from a sustainability standpoint is the result-oriented product service system, where the customer actually only gets access to the function or the need that they have, and the product stays with the company. And by the product not changing ownership to the customer, the company is highly incentivized to prolong the life of the product, to make it more efficient. And this is what gives this a very good potential for sustainability, because it decouples the economic growth from the environmental pressure, because the ownership is not transferred. So for example, Xerox started a pay-per-use model with their printers. So companies don't buy and own the printers anymore. They stay with the company, and then you only pay per copy. So Xerox has the incentive to make good products that are easy to fix, that stay alive longer, to minimize their costs. Or for example, Interface is a business that's producing modular carpet tiles, and they have the Evergreen lease initiative that they started, where you don't own your own carpet anymore, but the company provides you the use of having a floor. But if anything goes wrong there, it's their job to keep it, to change change modules if they need to be changed. So they're in charge of managing your floor, and you only lease it from them. So there's no transfer of ownership. So those are the 5 main business models that we distinguish at this point. Here you can see a little summary of those again. And then one more report we wanted to share from the World Economic Forum that just came out in January, and this stresses, which I think is for our project also quite nice, that even small companies can achieve a system change when they function as so-called trailblazers. So what is meant here is that impact-oriented businesses in a scale-up phase actually implement trail-changing strategies, which you can see here. So they are very actively telling story of a better future. They provide very innovative offers that set a new standard for an entire industry or system. They freely share their insights to inspire others and to generate a followership with that. They initiate collaboration to spread this type of solution that they stand for, and they're also highly involved in influencing public policy. So the report highlighted those 5 strategies for small companies or startups in order to push forward those circular business models and to function as a trailblazer, even as a small business.
So,
thank you.
We have to do business in a different way, and how we can connect that with some success cases that we have all around Europe. So I'm going to finish in 5 minutes because we are out of time, but I hope you can wait for 5-10 minutes more to finish the meeting, sorry. And I'm going to present this success case. Genologia is a company that is here in Valencia. It's headquarters. And this company I know from long time, and it was a small company, I think 5 or 6 years ago, but now it has moved to, we cannot say a big company, but with a high impact in the textile industry. They are part of the life cycle of the textile industry as they produce machinery for the sector, and their success comes totally entangled with the concept of reducing inputs in the production process. They produce machinery to distress jeans, reducing dramatically the impact of this productive phase, the phase in the textile jeans production about distressing, that we like to, for someone's like to wear those kind of jeans that looks old and vintage. So they are producing machinery for this phase. And as we have seen along this course, the textiles are the second largest consumer goods and the second most contaminant industry. We have seen also that the first stages in this production are the most contaminants and are in this responsible of most of the social impacts. So genology, the since jeans and to reduce, or the machineries to distress the jeans, to reduce both social and environmental impacts. And its business model relies in these 2 groups of impacts. For example, the previous distress methods applied to jeans garment were intensive in the use of water, chemicals, and energy in the environmental side. And also in the social side, those products were artisan and intensive in hard labor, with labor practices that in many cases do not care about security and safety standards for the people who are working on. So what Genologia offers is technology to give solution to those high impacts of this phase in the production of jeans in this case. For example, they are moving from 80 liters per jean to less than 20. They are all the technology also avoids the use of high toxicity chemicals like bleaches. Or in relation to labor practices, there are no chemical spraying, there are no manual scrapping, so the machines are, in this case, eliminating these damaging practices for the health. And the question is, so they are doing that, but why are they successful? Because they are managing, at this moment, around 30% of all the genes that are in the market do the process of distress using genealogia machines. So why are they so successful? Well, they are successful because they make cost neutral to move to this technology and massify sustainability practices, because are reducing dramatically the use of chemicals and the use of water and some important social impacts. And also they have the possibility to do that in a simple way, easily scalable to different facilities in the genes production along the whole world, because they also have in their business model the speed for doing things, not only the speed for distressing the gene, but also to scale the technology to the different facilities. They always saw this is like they saw this is a laundry 0%, and they integrate different technologies in reducing impacts. For example, they use laser. So if you go to their production facilities, you can see there how they distress a gene in 1 minute, and following the patterns you want, and also how they wash it using almost zero water. And so they have a lot of technology that could be connected to do those processes that were so contaminant and so high labor dependent. And for sure, what we are looking is not for this type of industries, but we can have them in mind to think about what we want to transmit to the users of our intellectual outputs during this project. Because the textile sector, due to its reality in relation to circular economy, as we have seen, is potentially a sector with a long track in terms of creating jobs. But not only in the sector itself, that of course, but also related to the need of training. So there is where we are. We are in the training of about circular economy for the sector, and our challenge in the project is to begin this new educational path for people that can use in the future this new way of doing things, and also to do that in a simple way, and to connect with these workers that have to move to a different economy. So I'm going to finish my presentation here,